one of my prospecting techniques was to go into this really, really super high end burrito bar. And as I did my order, I'd put my hand down in the fish bowl and I'd pull it out and then I'd sort them. And then I'd call them and say, hey, this is Tom Haislop. I'm across the street. I only work with, and I have to read their card like videographer engineers. And we have a new bond offering. And I did that. And I actually opened a lot of accounts.
Welcome to the Courage Never Quits podcast, where members of the West Point class of 1986 tell their stories. I'm your host, Paul LaFontaine. My guest today is Thomas Haislop, Cullum number 43238. We'll hear about Tater's 150-pound football evenings wielding a fire extinguisher and his unique sales techniques that are definitely not taught at Harvard Business School. As always, the views expressed in this podcast are those of the participants and not of West Point, the Army, or any organization, most particularly Dean Witter. Tater Haislop, welcome to the podcast.
Fantastic. It's great to be here, Paul. Thanks for inviting me.
Brother, you're getting married soon. Talk about that.
Look out. So maturity was elusive. So I thought at 60, hey, it's time to settle down.
It's time to settle down, Tater.
It's funny. We are going to get married. And it's funny. I met this gal on Match.com of all things.
You did.
Sent her a message. And she didn't respond for like 50 days. And all I wrote was hi on there. And she told me she was getting all these big, long letters to her because her name's Fancy Nancy for a reason. But anyway, she finally responded. We went on a date. It was cool. After all these years of fighting with the cops, I thought, why not date him? Why not join forces? You know?
Now you have a contact anyway.
Maybe things got so wild. I said, let's move a cop in. Maybe that'll settle things down.
Right.
It has a bunch, by the way.
It has. Good.
Yeah, it's been good.
You all have been together for a while. I met Nancy at the 35th reunion as an example, so we all kind of know her now.
It's crazy. She loves our class. I'm telling you, I can't tell you how effusive she is about talking about our class. Oh, his classmates are amazing. And I'm like, gosh, if she really only knew, you know.
You are an amazing Facebook poster, and I don't. Subscribe to Facebook. I don't recommend it to push it, but I mean, you are like a brand on there. It's amazing the stuff you post on there.
That's kind of embarrassing, Paul, because I tell people we're just like a 7th grade couple, allowing everyone to know what we had for lunch every day. It's beautiful.
My favorite is you going back to rescue the purse.
Nancy had such a good time.
Man, that was so fantastic. She left her purse behind. You went in there and rescued it, but you didn't just go just retrieve it. You rescued it.
I was so mad. We had gotten about a mile away and she was a little tipsy. And she goes, oh my goodness, I forgot my purse. I'm like,
So let's go back to the beginning. Parkersburg, West Virginia. That's where you're from.
Look out. I call it the city of the big shoulders. I just made that up right now, actually. But it's a neat little town. It's a funny story how we ended there. And if you don't mind, I want to tell you a little bit about it.
Please.
My mom was a Marymount girl. And my dad went to the prep school and then went to West Point and entered the class of 61. And they met at plebe Christmas. And then my dad didn't graduate. He didn't like the study parts, but he liked polishing shoes. So that's a small part of your academy experience. But he was excellent at it. I think someone told me he was the best plebe in Beast Barracks. Really? And then flunked out. I think he only passed Portuguese with a D. So listen, he got assigned to Buffalo Soldiers Field as a PFC, went to OCS, went to flight school, and was a first lieutenant before his class graduated. And the other weekend we were in Charleston, and I saw some of his classmates, and they recognized me because we looked very similar. Oh, that was neat. You talk about goose pimples on the arms. But anyway, he went to Vietnam, got 10 air medals, and survived a lot of heavy combat flying, and then was killed in Vicenza the next year and left my mom pregnant with 3 boys.
Oh, my goodness.
So my mom was a Marymount girl, and she didn't know where to go. And back then, the Army didn't give you a bunch. And so they gave her a ticket home. And I if I'm incorrect, I think $5,000 a ticket home and said thank you. And so she went home on a small widow's pension and went to his hometown. So that's how we ended up there. That was his hometown.
That was his hometown. Got it.
So I had a New York mom that spoke like she's from Long Island driving a diesel Mercedes through Parkersburg. And everyone's like, this crazy lady has 4 kids. What the heck? And she
No
was
kidding.
27. Isn't that neat? Yeah.
And did you
Neat
have a lot of
lady.
aunts, uncles, and family there from your
We
dad's
had
side?
my father's family was there. So they were somewhat of a support for us. But my mom did everything. She was a stud. She was a teacher, um, saved $1 million on a teacher salary and put us all through college. So what a neat person, and never remarried. She was really principled Irish Catholic lady.
Yeah, yeah.
So really,
Amazing.
what a neat person. But isn't that funny? She was a Marymount girl. Isn't that funny?
That's that. Did you ever have a chance to connect with her and ask her what that was like? New York girl
Oh,
ended up in West Virginia with 4
she
kids.
talked a lot about that. She went to the dance that day, and she said my dad was very charming. He was 6'4" and had a blonde crew cut. I wish I had that. And
Well, back in the day, brother. Back in the day.
yes, and she said he was quite charming. She said it ruined my life that day, so it was perfect.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
no, she was
No.
neat, man. It was neat. That was a when I told someone I posted something one time, and one of our classmates saw that, and they were unaware of that story. Of course, that isn't something you lead with, while you're
Well, the
like
apple
Paul.
didn't fall too far from the tree when it comes to the charm department.
I don't know.
You're
I
a
don't know about
legend.
that.
You're a
I
legend.
think we're both hyperactive and getting a lot of trouble too. So that part I really have succeeded in.
So West Point was a bit in your background. You had a bit of the story, and you had the
Yes,
legacy of your dad. Is that's what got you going on it?
it was funny. I didn't know what I was going to do, and I wasn't doing very well in school. And a cadet came to our class and spoke a little bit about West Point, and it turned me around as a student and a kid. And I went from D's to straight A's, and I got in. Our class was hard to get into. Geez, it was a competitive
Yeah, yeah.
class.
Now, I know you were an athlete at the academy. What did you do high school wise? Obviously, you got those straight A's. And what sports did you play?
So I was a football player, undersized and small. So I really wanted to play Army football, but when I went up there and saw everyone, Paul, I went, "Ain't gonna happen." I mean, the dudes were athletic. I was both the most amazing combination of slow and small, so it was really cool.
Yeah, right.
But
You were a
I
double
heard
threat, slow and small.
I heard about lightweight football, and it was me to a
Yeah,
T. So I'd heard about it, and it was such a gift to be able to play all 4 years there.
yeah,
Um, the last year I had to lose so much weight that the soup sent the core dietitian Captain Anini to my room to interview
really.
me, and she opens the door and she goes, "What weight do you have to make by in 2 weeks?" So 158. She goes, "What do you weigh now?" I go 192. She goes, "I'm not allowing that." I go, "Ma'am, I hate to say this. This is going on without you. We're going forward with this." So that
Yeah.
was cool. That was the hardest one my senior year to cut. It was fun.
So she punted on you. She said, I'm not getting
She
involved."
went back. I said, "Man, please. This is what we do. It's very healthy. We love it." And
There's no long term effects for the binging and
yeah,
dieting.
yes, it was cool. So that was cool. 192 to 158 in 2 weeks. That was a lot. Isn't
That's
that
a lot.
crazy?
That's a
Yeah.
lot.
So we didn't play on. We weighed Wednesday, played Friday. So
Yeah.
Friday I weighed 172.
So
So
I
that
just
was
heard,
most.
I was talking to John Cannon. He was talking about going to Grant Hall the night before the game, kind of bulking back up.
Yes, we would start eating the minute we weighed in Wednesday until the game time. The first play, usually someone lost chow. That always made it a great game.
I wish we'd
Out
have
on the
known. Yeah, I wish we'd have known that, because then we would have talked to you guys only Wednesday through Friday, because Monday through Wednesday, you guys were grumpy.
grouchiness. Yeah.
When you went to West Point, did you prepare or did you just go in cold?
I went in cold, and it's funny. West Point was magical in finding what you weren't good at.
Yeah,
You're good
they
at.
were pretty good at that.
It's funny. You think you're good at a lot of things, and you get humbled a lot. So
Yeah.
you have to work on things you're not good at, and the things that are natural for you, you just take it for granted. So it was funny. Believe it or not, I'm a Spanish speaker, and I learned it in high school in Parkersburg, West Virginia. My teacher
Really?
was this beautiful girl from Cuba, and so my Spanish classes were easy for me, but the really complex math I had to work at, and if I didn't work at it, I didn't make it. So I just didn't have my high school was strong in some areas, but I wasn't super prepared for all that heavy calculus all
So
at
a lot of
once.
academics hit you pretty good.
Yeah, what's funny is the first year I had to do STAP. Oh, let me
Really?
say something. Let me say something about STAP. I don't recommend it. It was horrendous. I had to do four
What got
trans
you?
over.
What course did you have to retake?
I had to do Fortran over again. You talk about an embarrassment. And
Fortran.
yes, after that, I made Dean's List. So I had another growing up experience. By the way, that's a common thread through my life, right?
What's that?
A growing up experience.
Okay.
I'm
You just
the late mature, delayed adolescence,
an endless
right?
series of growing up experiences, all with a stretch goal of growing up and as the growing up as a stretch goal.
Maybe one of these days. Okay.
Plebe year. How did you find the plebe discipline and all that?
You know what's funny? I actually loved West Point. Some people might not think that. I thought it was amazing. I thought it was the greatest opportunity, and I was thrilled to be there. I almost didn't make it, but I loved it. I
So you
loved
started
it. I
out in
thought it was
F3, is that right?
F3, and they were hard on us. They yelled at us a lot, and we had the only seniors that yelled at us till they graduated. I was like, dudes, get a life,
Yeah.
really? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
It was
So
funny
yeah,
how each company had its own personality, right? So that senior group in F3 just they had a way of
isn't it
being.
crazy? It really forged us together because my F3 company mates were still very close. Isn't that
Yeah.
funny? And we still share the same tired, boring stories to each other, even to this day.
D2 was where you landed
D2,
as a
correct.
yearling. And how did you find that transition?
It was pretty seamless. We had a good group of guys. I especially liked my roommate, Rich Day, who's no longer here. But Rich and I were super close.
Yeah.
We had the messiest, most disorderly, most obnoxious room. And every time they'd tell us that we couldn't room together, the tack would change. And
Right.
then the new tech would go and go, I'm going to give you guys a chance. And he was so sorry for that. He goes, I should have known better.
The nickname
I did.
Tater.
Correct. I
Where
think
was
so.
that from? What was because that is one of the better nicknames in the class. I had this dent in my helmet about nicknames being
I,
unimaginative, but Tater's a pretty good one.
I think at F3, they're yelling at me about my haircut. And I removed my head, and I had so many boils and blemishes, and I had shaved my head that Steve Cummings said, oh my God, he looks like Mr. Potato Head. It
Is that
stuck
where
from
it
there.
comes from?
Yes, yes. My face looked like a sawed-off shotgun had been fired at close range several times. Yeah, I had horrendous acne. It was beautiful, man.
So you say
Right?
you really enjoyed West Point. Which just sound off on a couple things that you really loved about it, where you looked around and you said it's really awesome to be here.
Well, it's just funny. I always said to myself, and I knew that some things I did know. I knew that if I was in a regular college, I might not have really done that well. So having the being locked down in solitary confinement is a beautiful experience for some of us. So that really directed an energetic kid
Right.
who who needed that. So that was cool.
And what course you said you made the dean's list, which is fantastic. What course of study did you choose?
A couple of times, so I chose Latin American Foreign Area Studies. So I had a real pale guy that needed sunscreen in there with gentlemen that came from Latin America a lot, and it was an interesting class mix. And then I went on to be stationed in Panama, so I got to use it. It was
Well,
fun.
you did go to Panama as a station. That's great.
I did, and
Now,
while I
I
was
heard tale of you had an exchange program. Talk about that.
yeah, so the academy they asked us to host all the Latin American cadets, and so that was a blast. And I'm sure that they probably are still talking about that down in Latin America. We also went to Mexico. One of the
And what was
things
it,
that we had
Mexico? Was it part of an exchange?
was actually going to the Mexican Military Academy in El
Really?
Distrito Federal in downtown. And it was really neat. And they took us on these super trips and exchanges. And one of them was to visit the tequila distilleries. And they gifted us tequila, and we decided to drink all of it on the way back to the barracks. We drank all of it on the bus back to the place and had a party in our room. And they literally opened the door. Jeff Hanko could tell us, opened the door with guns drawn on us.
Did they
That's a true
really?
story. Yes. So anyway, Mexico was another great experience, except for the officer in charge who went with us, the captain.
They were generally kind of spoil sports, as I recall. They were not so much fun. The chaperoning officer, seeing their careers flashing before their eyes.
Their OERs went up in flames the minute the wheels left the tarmac. But Jeff Hanko and Kristen Knapp had a blast there.
Dean's List all for a lot of the time, or we had
Oh,
obviously bounced back after STAP.
yeah. After STAP, I ended up with almost about a 2.89. So right in the
Okay.
middle of the class, I think I was. So I was happy with that, to be honest with you.
All right. And then what was your craziest 150s trip?
Oh, well, we don't have enough. We don't have enough tape for that. No, one of the trips we Ted Johnston, and he's also not with us anymore. Ted Johnston and I took the fire extinguisher to a hotel and kind of foamed it up a little bit, and then we went back to bed. And they walked in. They go, "Hey, you guys, just get some rest. There's some idiots out here causing carnage and chaos out here." And we're like, "Oh, okay, just keep it down." Oh, those idiots were us, and we still have our shoes on, of course, in bed. But anyway, yeah, we had the
Great.
150 trips were epic. They were a blast. They really were.
Yeah, I bet. I
Yep.
bet. A spirited group. A spirited group. Infantry. When did you know you were going infantry?
From the minute I was slapped on the ass in Fort Rucker in February of '64.
That was
No,
it.
I'm just teasing. I just
No
knew I
question.
loved infantry. I loved it. My dad was an airborne ranger, so that was kind of
Okay.
neat. And he went to flight school only because it paid a little more because the pay was so poor in the '60s.
Right.
So he was an airborne ranger, then became a pilot later. That's why I was born in Fort Rucker. My mom had two kids while he was in flight training down in Fort Rucker.
Boy.
She said they almost named the hospital after her because that was a new concept then in '62 and '64.
Yeah.
Helicopters were. So yeah, so I did that. I went to, of course, to our ranger school, and our ranger school stories are awesome. With our classmates. That was primarily, and then I went to the Venezuela ranger course,
You
which was
did. How did that work?
that Venezuela ranger course. They fired live rounds. They did a lot of crazy stuff. I loved it. It was amazing, man. I can't even explain it to you. They go,
So
"Do you
was that
think
when
this
you were a
course?"
lieutenant?
Yes. So I
And then
went to
how
the
did you
course.
get that billet? That's amazing.
Yeah, it was the Curso Cazador de Venezuela. And my colonel called me and he goes, "Hey, Tom, they say your Spanish skills are excellent." I go, "Isn't that scary, sir? I'm your best Spanish speaker." He goes, "I think you could complete this thing, though." So I did. And they liked me. They had hand-to-hand combat and all kinds of crazy things that I was good at. So it was fun.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
It was 92 days. It was hell. It really
Really?
was.
Wow. Yeah.
And they threw us out, times they threw us out 7 days in these mangrove swamps. And we just
Wow.
sat there and they go, "Do survival." I go, "You're looking at it, my friend. We're just going to sit here until the airboat comes back." There wasn't
Did they
anything to
did they
do.
come up with a nickname for you? I mean, coming from out of the country, I mean, they had to.
Yes. Yes. They called me Oso Polar, which is the polar bear, because I was big, pale, and white. And I also had a flatulence problem due to the bad food they're feeding me.
Well, I'm sure
The
that's the
food
first time that's ever happened for you, Tater.
the food, though, seriously, was they donated it almost to the army, and it was riddled with worms and all kinds in garrison. It
Oh
was
wow.
horrendous. But of course, you have to move. You got to eat something. But it was cool. I really loved that course. That was neat. That's back when Venezuela was semi-friendly. Our class
Yeah.
was split. Our class was split between the U.S. supporting officers and the lefty Marxist Go Fidel officers. So it was
Really?
a very interesting dynamic.
I bet.
And so I was right in the middle. I tried to talk to both sides, but there was clearly a divide in the class. And then interesting, you've seen that divide play out today.
And that's a lot of the story in Latin America. They have such
Yep.
strident divides like that in their cultures. But oh, that's interesting. Yeah. And that was from Panama.
Yes.
And how did you get? It was Panama. How did Panama go out in the branch selection process? And what was your thoughts about going to Panama?
So it's funny. There was only two slots, and I was like, "Oh gosh, I hope I get to go there." And so there were just two slots, and no one really wanted to go. I don't think. I thought it was an amazing opportunity, and I brushed up on my Spanish while I was there.
I bet.
Mostly in the nightclubs. So you can
Well,
learn a lot if you stay up all night drinking. So it was awesome, man.
it's a handy instructional tool.
It was amazing. My colonel was surprised that my Spanish was as good as it was. My brother's actually a Spanish professor, so we have a little bit of a knack for languages. Isn't that
Where did
funny?
that come from? I mean, that's pretty amazing to get that proficient early on.
So my grandfather, believe it or not, went to Chile and worked in Chile from West Virginia on helping them make their taxation for property more fair. And he came
Uh-huh.
back, and my uncle spoke Chilean Spanish, which is much different than my Latin American Spanish.
Right.
So it's funny. my sister-in-law's from Spain, and she's always like, Tommy, why do you speak like this? It's so hilarious, because I speak like a street Panamanian, but I look like an Irish bar fighter. So
Right.
so it's funny. We still speak Spanish on Thanksgivings and Christmas at home. Isn't that funny?
That's amazing.
Yeah, we have fun with it.
And did your grandfather just speak a lot of it, and so you picked it up?
No, he did. His kids had to translate for him, and the kids learned early. So my grandfather never really was a speaker, but he went down there. When Latin American countries, we were trying to get them to move towards market-based economies. The
Right.
taxation, the rich would never pay their taxes. So he went down there and was trying to show them how to tax their property fairly. And of course, he was hated by the rich
Right.
and loved.
That's not a popular role to take in any
He, he,
country.
yeah, and he never fixed that problem. Imagine that. So to pay the fair share. So
Not
it
through
was a,
lack of effort, no doubt.
yeah, so it was interesting. But from Parkersburg, that was a unique experience that he did that. That probably caused that trend in our family.
So, what was the craziest thing that happened to you in Panama, just as a deployment, or what experience there?
Oh, we did a lot of neat things. So I went to Honduras and
Hmm.
worked on Tiger Island, on the defense of Tiger Island. That was neat. So a lot of the classmates had gone through there. That was just a great experience. Overall, Panama was neat because it was real. You got to do a lot of real time training. So it was neat.
Now, I
Loved
see
it.
from your LinkedIn you got out in '93, or at least you started up at
I
a
got,
civilian job in
I got
'93.
out in 90. I got out early and then just went into business.
Okay.
Um,
And
and
what was the thinking there? Why'd you get out? We
just
all
had
know
never
it was a drawdown, but what was the thought?
Never been, yeah, drawdown, and I'd never done anything else, and just a new direction.
Okay.
But came out and I just went to sales. I knew that I would have some aptitude at sales, so I thought I'd try it, and I've been doing it ever since.
Well,
They call me a broker, and I
yeah.
said that's because I've never been broker than last week. Every month you're looking for the new sale.
You do have a certain way about you that I think sales kind of fits. So
I love it.
if we'd have
I
guessed
love
any
it.
career as a cadet when you get into, I think sales is a good bet. Was a good
Sales, sales has been good. It's funny, and it's also get to be your own boss is exciting too. I've
Yeah,
learned
right.
that.
What now you've tracked into financial services. I mean, you've had a great run in financial services. Talk about, was that you just fall into that career, or was there an interest there?
I just I came back and my mom had a Merrill Lynch broker, and I visited with them. They didn't hire me because I don't know why, they're snobbish or whatever. But anyway, I just kept trying. I started with Dean Witter, and
Yeah.
I've been doing it a long time. So I've been doing it 30 years, and only about 7 of them super successful.
Yeah,
These
right. That's how it
with
works,
my
right?
business, in our business, you start out and you really struggle mightily in it. I would never start it again, to be honest with you. It was
Really.
difficult. Yes, it was very difficult to build a business. I'm still doing it today, every day.
So is
So
that tied to economic conditions externally, or is that just the waves, the ups and downs of the whole market?
well,
How does that work?
our, our business is a high attrition business.
Is that right? Yeah.
So they hired in my Dean Witter class. They hired 200 people, and I think 2 of us are still doing it. Isn't that
Really?
crazy? It's like Survivor. It really is. Because, basically they're handing you a business card and a phone, and they're
Yeah.
saying, here, you got the resources of the firm, build business. Ready? Go. And that's how much help you get. And a lot of people, I mean, including myself, struggled with that a lot.
Sure.
Uh, but I struggle and focus on prospecting daily, believe it or not, because, you just have to sit and focus on that activity. And that's actually harder than people think to meet new people and get them to write big checks to you, right?
Right. And there's a consistency that's needed, right?
Yes, and so you got to be disciplined to do that. I'm still working on it every
Right.
day.
Right. Did you start in retail? In other words, selling to people with stocks and things?
Yep, started as a stock and bond broker, sitting in a bullpen in Silicon Valley, across from Apple computers, and
Yeah,
I
I
learned a lot.
Cupertino, right?
Yeah, Cupertino, I learned a lot, but I didn't make a lot.
Right.
It was mostly learning, but you basically survive. But and I morphed a lot, and I've moved jobs. Some of those jobs I moved because I was young and didn't work as hard as I should have. But I landed now. I'm doing a lot of tax abatement and doing a lot of work on the insurance side, and I'm in the best place for me. I love it. I'm with Penn Mutual now.
Yeah. Okay.
So I sold my practice to Pru. It didn't work out. I'll never work for a big stock company, but now I'm with a mutual company. I really run my own shop and run it the way I'd like to, and I love it. And we have a really good product lineup.
you work from home, basically reaching out to people and helping them out?
I do. And I travel to people a lot. I just came back from my hometown where I just got awarded the city pension. So that's cool. So
Yeah.
the cops all yelled at me about how much change is coming. So
Yeah. Right.
they used to yell at me for a different reason in my hometown, but
You're just used to it. It's all just water on a duck's back, you know.
I'm like, yes.
So, how did you get the job out in Cupertino, California? Because that's an unusual move. Most of us went to the military recruitment things, ended up in Cincinnati and places like that. But Cupertino is an unusual move, I think. But
Yeah, it was funny. I moved from Parkersburg for a small job. Believe it or not, when I got out of the Army, I was hired by my old West Point Army sprint football coach, Bob
oh,
Knapp, working for Walker in Parkersburg. And guess where I met him?
where
In a bar. Imagine that.
there's a
I go,
theme
you look
here.
like
There's a theme here.
you look like my boss, only or my old football coach, only drunker. And he goes, that's because I was your coach. And I went, oh, well, fantastic. And he goes, are you looking for work? I go, I am. He goes, you start tomorrow morning. Help me to the cab. And we
That's
started.
fun.
He's great though. I love him. Yeah,
And
he's
what
a
was the
stud.
first job?
That was my first job out of the Army.
And what
Was
was
with
it
Bob
again?
Knapp.
Say it again.
It was just a little inside sales job for a manufacturer.
Okay,
Yeah, that was cool. Hired by my old sprint football coach, who was very supportive. He's a great guy for transition.
that's
And
great.
then he moved me to California to work in one of the warehouses. I didn't care for that. And so out there, one of our classmates, and his name escapes me, was great at Scott Poirier. He was
Yeah,
a headhunter. He got me a job selling chemicals up in Silicon Valley, and that's where I met Dean Witter on a weekend recruitment trip.
got it. Okay.
Isn't that amazing
Yeah,
how
Scott helped
just
Doug Andrews as well, so he was a good guy to know.
Scott was an excellent recruiter. Yeah,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
placed me, and I loved that job. I just thought I'd give this financial services a try. I was successful at the chemical sales. I was selling water treatment chemicals to the Silicon Valley businesses, which
Okay.
really is a very interesting job. I loved it actually. That was cool. I got to go into all the chip fabricators and all that.
Oh wow,
I've
yeah.
had. I always tell people I've had like 75 jobs because I'm good at losing them, but I'm even better at getting a new one.
Well, as long as you're good at both ends, you're good, right?
Yes, yes. I'm a professional interviewer.
Right. I'm not a job hopper. I just like to diversify.
I just like to meet new people. I like to meet new HR people. I love it.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, you know, I'm a friendly guy. I like lots of people.
Oh, it's fun, man.
And then, so that was right at the beginning of the Silicon Valley explosion, really. Or
Yes, it
the
was.
silicon part was still going, the chip fabrication and all that, but the online that was just prior to the online
It,
explosion,
it-
right?
we did the first IPO in the bullpen, and it was Netscape. And I remember my boss came out and he goes, "Hey, idiots!" We were all in the bullpen. He goes, "Hey, I'll give the first guy who can sell them 100 shares in Netscape to the client. Just to gift it because the Dean Witter was the underwriter." And
Right.
so we're calling on the people, but we had called with so much junk. They were like, I don't want any of that. And
Boom.
it was,
I don't want to hear
it
from you
was,
again.
it went from like $4 to 38 the first trading day. And
Yeah.
they're like, the last thing you sold me, my wife's still yelling at me.
Right.
But
Yeah.
it was a neat, what happened to us back then doesn't even occur anymore. The
Right.
trading is
Right.
done on phones
They
now.
didn't bring out
We,
the Glengarry leads and say, "Here you go." Right. This
I'm
is
serious. That
Netscape.
was kind of like that. He goes, "The first one gets it, and then you get a new client, and this one will work, not the other 12 ideas that Dean Witter gave you, right?"
And so
So
that's amazing. You were in California. What were your clients? Were they high net worth people in California? Was that the idea?
one of my prospecting techniques was to go into this really, really super high end burrito bar. And as I did my order, I'd put my hand down in the fish bowl and I'd pull it out and then I'd sort them. And then I'd call them and say, "Hey, this is Tom Haislop. I'm across the street. I only work with," and I have to read their card, like videographer engineers. And we have a new bond offering. And I did that. And I actually opened a lot of accounts doing that. Mike Wynn laughed so hard
You
every night when I told him
stole
those stories.
cards out of the bowl, the burrito, out of the fish bowl at the burrito bar.
Honestly, anything to try to make a dollar. So it was funny. And then, of course, you look at their job title. They'd always say, "That's impossible, kid. I never give my card out." And I go, "I just happened upon your card here in Silicon Valley." I would never tell them I pulled it out of a burrito bowl. But It was awesome, man. So I lived with Mike Gwynn. I went out and I was partying one night in Palo Alto, and Mike Gwynn and I were airborne buddies.
Yeah.
And I hear this guy, big goofy tall guy, telling jokes at the end of the bar, and I'm telling him at the other end, and no one's laughing, of course.
Right.
But I look down and there I call him Bigfoot. There's Big Mike Gwynn telling jokes, and I was his airborne buddy at airborne school as cadets. So we moved in together. That was cool.
Yeah.
That was one of my successful relationships. So
Yeah, right. That's fantastic. And then what was he doing out there?
he was selling. I think he was selling surgical devices at that
Okay,
point
so he
for
was
at
in
the
sales
time.
as well. So two salesmen. Well,
Yes.
I imagine every Saturday night you'd stay home and read manuals so you could improve your sales technique.
We did. We stayed at home and and read sales books all weekend. In fact, that we should have got a revolving door on that house. We never even locked it. It was just bang, 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 people in and out.
Well,
I'd walk by. I'm like, Mike, put pants on. There's two girls in the living room. He's
right,
like, oh, hello, good morning,
right.
morning.
Sales is a busy thing. When you're in sales, there's a lot of people around. I get it. That's
I
fantastic.
still I still love Mike Gwynn with all my heart. He's such a wonderful guy, man. I want to say something to you about this interview too.
Sure.
One of the things that I'm always amazed by is how the people that you didn't know at West Point, and you're like, geez, why didn't I ever know this person? West Point's the gift that keeps giving.
Keeps
I
giving.
mean, it's incredible. I've met people that I didn't spend any time with at West Point that I'm totally I'm enthralled with now and just think they're most amazing people. So that's cool. And I hope our class continues to grow our relationships. And I think we've done a good job with that. I think our class has done excellent.
Was having a conversation with someone and we were talking about regrets, and you can't have any regrets. But I said, if I could give myself advice from 1985, it would be go around and introduce myself to every classmate, regardless of the reception, and just say,
Is
we're not
that
friends now, but just give it time. Right.
is that the impetus behind your
We were
60,
talking about
60?
that. And then I realized, well, we can do that now. Like there's zero reason why we can't just like connect now. Like you and I really didn't know each other at the academy, but we can connect now
That
and
light
just say,
bulb,
okay, now's the time because we have this common background. Off we go.
if you think about every part of your life, every part's been neat and interesting and different in its own right. And 60 is a wonderful age.
I love it.
It's
Absolutely love it.
crazy, isn't it? It's cool. I wish I could remember.
I think we're all so clear on what we like and don't like that there's just no
Yeah.
reason to do anything but what we like.
But also there's I think one thing I know is a lot of people aren't as judgmental and tough on others as they were when we were younger and more competitive. You know what I mean? It was
100%.
competitive. It was competitive at West Point. And now that all of us have been buffeted by the winds of life, we understand that it ain't always straightforward for everyone, and people get hit with stuff that they didn't ask for, didn't expect, and they're horrendous. Yet I'm surprised how resilient people are, and loving
Absolutely
and
right. You hear all sorts of. I mean, we've all had ups and downs by this time.
great.
Like
Yeah, I mean, there's
100%. Every one of us have had ups and downs that we can talk about, and every one of us has worked our way through it in general. And those who haven't have been helped by classmates.
that's cool, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
neat.
I love it. I love it.
Our class being at 86 was a gift
It is a
that
gift.
we didn't even know. We didn't know how good it was,
We
right?
didn't know, but now we can.
Yeah.
I think if we can distinguish ourselves as a class in anything, it's our connectivity. And people look at us and say, "Man, that class is close." That to me that's the prize. If we can pull that one
Yes,
off, everything else
that
takes
was
care of itself.
I really love how close I think our class is growing, and I think it's the beginning. I think we're going to get even closer as we move on. So that's cool. I'm not sure everyone loves me, especially after I've trampled on their feet at the tailgate, or gave them one of my hugs with my. In the last tailgate, I had urine problems from my prostate surgery, so. My doctor, Paul, said to me, he goes, "Hey, how did your Army Navy experience go?" He was a Navy guy. I said, I said, "Doc, I pissed myself the whole game." He goes, "Oh God, I'm so sorry about that." He goes, "Did it ruin your experience?" I go, "Oh no, I thought it was magical, actually." He goes, "You're a very strange person, my friend." I go, "Now, a lot of people did." I said, "But what are you going to do?" You know what I mean? So,
Oh,
It was amazing, man.
What?
I had just had my prostate out in October, and the game was December. And everyone goes, "If you go, you have to wear a diaper." I go, "Well, I tried that, and they're too heavy. I'm going sans diaper."
I'm going in.
And my overalls were very absorbent. They were beautiful. So
That's all you need, man. This day and age,
those
right?
over,
You talk
those
about this.
overalls
That's all you need. Right? No
those
one else has
overalls
got
have
you
become
covered.
famous.
No one else got you covered. What? So from California, how'd you end up working your way back east? What was that process?
So my mom got breast cancer when she was 58, and and it was serious from the very beginning. And she fought it for 12 years. But when I heard that, I wanted to go home and make sure. We didn't know what the prognosis was going to be. But back in 1995, I think it was when she got that, they didn't have the breast cancer tools they have today. So she was stage 3, and they gave her 18 months to live,
Right.
and she lived with advanced cancer for 12 years.
Hmm.
So 58 to 70. But today, I bet you she would have survived. The tools, cancer tools are better. That's malarkey when they say big pharma is not delivering on disease stuff, because it's just not true. If you get cancer today, your
Yeah.
chances are far better, you
Well, you
know?
just hear the stories anywhere from cancers to strokes and things. Just the survivability rate improves, right? So, yep. Yeah, yeah. So that took you back to West Virginia, and then
Correct.
how did you make the move down to South Carolina?
So when you get your girlfriend pregnant and your mom's dying of cancer and you're Catholic, you end up marrying her and moving to South Carolina.
That's kind of the only option.
That's how that works. And my mom was, she had just taken some chemo, and she said, "Hey, buddy, don't be an asshole." I go, I'll marry her. So that worked out. That was the first marriage. But
Got it. And
anyway,
we see it's your daughter on Facebook, Carmen, right?
yeah, Carmencita, she's a gift. She's neat. She
Now, what's her? A little bit about her. Is she local to
she's
you?
she's living here, and she's in South Carolina with me. She's very high functioning autistic kid. And
Okay.
if you've ever met a kid like that, they're the coolest people in the world. First they're super honest and and amazing and outspoken at times.
Right.
I took her to lunch, and she had just turned 21 last in May. I
Right.
said, "Carmen, this is the year that you have to do a shot of tequila rather." And she goes, "I'm not doing tequila. I see what it does to you, to Dad." And I was with the client, having lunch with the client. And I go, "We didn't have to say that." She goes, "It's true." So I had to switch gears in that conversation. It was
Let's
awesome,
switch
man.
gears a little bit.
Yes, it was awesome, man. So anyway, my daughter and I are very close. We have a blast, and we do a lot
You
together.
can tell
That's
in
why you see,
the way you share the adventures that you both have. It's really great. It's really
we
great.
have fun. Thank you for saying that.
Although
We
I
have a
see you
blast.
lurking around 7-Elevens too much, I believe a report's going to go up to headquarters, and Joe DePinto is going to get a report on
I'm
you.
I'm trying to get DePinto to hire me as the company spokesperson, but so far I've not been
So far,
successful. But
so
you got to start those at the Slurpee machine where the action meets the highway, right?
I think you go to all these 7-Elevens, they think you're the undercover boss, so that's why they treat you nicely.
Yes, yes.
Here's this
I
guy
saw that.
again. Oh
I saw
boy,
that episode with him.
give him a
He was
Slurpee.
awesome in that. What's that?
Look, just take the Slurpee and go, sir. You're good.
Yes, yes, yes. That we I saw that episode with Joe on there, and I loved it. That's amazing.
It was actually really great. Knowing him from the academy from all those years back, and seeing him on that show, but also seeing him, he's just Joe. He's just Joe, right? When you catch up.
Yeah, he's done super well. I'm very proud of him. I think he was in STAP with me, but I better ask him if I'm allowed to
Yeah,
tell him that.
we'll let the public relations team at 7-Eleven handle that issue. Handle that information.
It's a funny, man.
Right? Well, like
So
it says, STAP is like a launch pad.
it's a character builder, apparently.
It sticks for some, Tater.
Let me say something about STAP though. It was horrendous, and
I can only
we
imagine.
sat we sat in the sixth floor of the computer hall, Mahan Hall. No, wait, what was?
Yeah.
Wait, no,
No,
Eisenhower. Eisenhower.
the computers at that time were above the mess hall, right?
Yeah, up in the sixth floor, and they had the window open. And if you fell asleep, this colonel, you were doing the whole course in about 4 weeks.
Right.
taking like 5 lessons a day. And this colonel said, "You're about to fail out of the academy." He would throw an eraser and bounce it off your head, and all the chalk would fly off and leave a mark. And he's like, "Are we clear?" And it was a full bird colonel blasting us. That was beautiful, man. It was
That's
beautiful.
fantastic.
I mean, it would hit
You've
you.
had an eraser thrown and bounced off your head.
And he goes, "Hey, you're about to flunk out of here, and you're falling asleep in Fortran Stap. What a loser!" You can't make it up, can you?
That Here's the problem I
Oh,
have. There are so many shorts coming out of this conversation. I don't even know where to start. I mean, and I knew this was going to happen. Oh my
I'm sorry.
God, that is
My life, my
fantastic.
life, my life is a folly, my friend.
You're
So
a
I hear you.
you're a treasure, man. It's
I I try to get up
you're,
every day.
you're about
I
to.
try to get I try to get up every day and have a blast, but Nancy gets in the way. I'm telling
Right,
you.
right. The fun mitigation officer.
It,
Oh my
it,
gosh. So, but you got through the Fortran, okay?
yes, I got an A because I never ever wanted to repeat that eating chalk eraser experience ever again. So
And did that give you a good grounding in the topic?
to be honest with you, that was a good wake up call because I almost got kicked out for bad
Sure.
grades my first semester, and I got called on the tack at Christmas, and he goes, "Hey Tom," and he called me Tom. I was taken aback, and I was at a party at Christmas at a house, and he
Right.
goes, "Listen, they're going to let you stay if you'll do STAP." And I went, "Well, I don't know what that means, sir, but I'll do it." and everyone went home, and I stayed.
Yeah.
But listen, that was good for me because I never ever was in danger of failing a class again, and actually did well in a lot of them after that.
Yeah.
So it was a
Right.
good
Right.
wake up call.
You wonder if we were just rushed through a lot of those courses to where we were just trying to tread. Like if you're trying to tread water, you don't really learn how to swim, right?
One senior came into my room when I was a plebe, and he goes, "Hey, numbnuts, what are you doing that you're struggling so bad?" And I was so disorganized
Right.
that he threw my little calendar down and showed me how to put myself together, and I never looked back. That was second semester.
That's
Second
a really
semester,
helpful thing that happened there.
isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And organization's been a struggle for me because of ADHD,
Right.
and and that helped. That really
Just
got me
that
back
little
on
bit,
track.
right?
Isn't that crazy?
That's great though that he did that.
Oh man,
I don't
changed my
think I would have
life.
had the presence of mind as a first tee to actually take the time to notice that and then give that assistance. We were all
He,
just so,
he walked in without an invitation, and it was a big, tall basketball player, and said, "Hey, dumbass, what are you doing?" And I said, "Well," he goes, "Show me your schedule." I go, "Schedule?" He goes, "Okay, problem solved."
this
So
is how you do it.
he put that little calendar together for me, and if you followed that, you stayed on track. So little
Right.
things, right? Little things, details,
It's the little
right?
things. Yeah. Who
Yep,
you roomed with, that one firstie that leaned in on it, that one P that took the time. Those are the little things that really make a huge difference.
craziness.
Looking back 20 years, 30 years, just looking back, what advice would you give yourself?
Oh, I always say this, I could have always done so many things so much better. So I try to use that as a tool going forward, you know, um, and try to improve every day on the things I do. My job, I've been at it 31 years in the financial services industry, but it's such a broad industry and there's so much change going on in it that if you're not developing yourself and improving all the time, you just really aren't a resource for your clients. So I try to I keep that in mind all the time as I try to make myself a better resource for everyone. It's all about helping people. If you spend your life helping people, I don't care how you do it, you're gonna be you're gonna be well to do. You're gonna be well thought of, and you're gonna leave a better legacy. So I'm trying to do that.
Yeah.
Um,
Wise words, man. That's very
the
wise.
story's not written yet,
If you're
but
helping people, you're always moving in the right direction. There may be ups and downs, but it's always the right
it,
direction to go, right?
if you think about people that help people a lot, they're almost always successful, right? And I don't know if it's because of that or if those were connected, but if you look at a lot of super successful people, they're always trying to improve others' experiences.
Yeah.
right?
For sure. So you mentioned a little bit about your medical. You just got your neck done and all that stuff. How's the system holding up? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, dude. So this is the year of surgeries. So I
Yeah.
had my prostate taken out, and I want to do a little public service message on that. I had no
Please.
symptoms, no symptoms. My PSA was elevated only to a 4 or 5, and they made me. They insisted I get a digital exam. They found a hard spot on my prostate. We watched it for 3 years, and then ultimately last October I had the surgery and had it
Yeah.
taken out. And let me say something. They thought it was a spot. When we got the gland out, it was 3/4 cancer and
Yeah.
was coming out of the gland. And I had no symptoms. So that was, I think, life saving. It would eventually got much worse.
Yeah.
So we did that. And then probably from 150s, I had a disc in my neck that was all torn up. And they can do fake discs in your neck now, just an individual disc in your neck. Look, this was done in June. I feel
Yeah.
awesome.
Good for you.
And I'm telling you, you said something about your wife not sleeping. I couldn't sleep for years with that disc like that. My arm was horrendous. It was just on fire. It was a stinger for 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Horrendous. So anyway, health has been. I've been lucky. I consider all that lucky stuff because I'm fixable, right?
Right. Right.
Not being fixable is not lucky, right?
That's right. That's the only unlucky thing you got.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff. Well, we're glad you're doing well, healthy, and hale, man. We need your energy to keep us all the rest of us moving.
I've already been kicked out of one business conference, so I'm back to normal. So I'm ready to rock.
Tater, it was great to have you here on the podcast. Thanks so much.
I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed this. What a wonderful experience.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Courage Never Quits podcast, where any member of the class of 1986 who is willing to tell their story will be a guest. To get the word out and to stay up to date on the latest episodes, hit the like and subscribe buttons. With 954 living graduates in the class, we have a lot of stories to collect, and you don't want to miss any of them. We'll see you in the next episode.